Hey guys, this is Tony Porter, Cards and Dice TV, and welcome. Now we are unboxing today. I found another small box in a separate closet where I'm kind of doing some early spring cleaning before I travel, because I will be traveling a little bit in a couple of weeks to Europe, and so I'm tidying up here and there and figuring out what I have, what I don't have, because I do have to take a couple of games with me. I don't know which games those are going to be. So I'm fuzzy about what I have in some of these boxes that I kind of get and or I trade and then I never really look at um, until I suddenly realize, oh man, here's a box. Wait, what's in it? So let's find out what's in this box and let's get to it. All right, so here we go. Let's take a quick peek at what is what. So this, I literally haven't opened this in probably a year. I mean, and this, somebody sent me the 1988 Stratomatic. Additional players. All right, 1988. Let's see what's in here. Is this 1988? This is 1968. Does that say 68 or 88? All right, I don't know what it says. Let's find out. That says 68, 1968. Okay. So, and what did we get? We got the 1968 advanced set. So let's take a quick peek. Now these truly are in pristine condition, as you can see. The Reds, the Cubs, these are gorgeous. They're, I mean, barely soiled at all. Very, very clean. No writing is on them. So this is definitely a nice set of cards to have. And I had them and I didn't know about it. I do have the Super Advanced 67. Now I have the Advanced 68. I believe I have the Super Advanced 69. I thought these were 64 and they were 68. So the Cardinals did well that season, and we're looking for the Cardinals. I'm looking for the Detroit Tigers. I believe the Tigers were on top with 103 wins. The Cardinals were second with 97. Third was the Baltimore Orioles. Here are the Orioles, and we'll go over those top teams, and we'll look at a little bit at why we should play 1968. What's the appeal of rolling 1968? We'll look at some stats, and we'll talk a little bit about the cards. Tigers. Okay, so let's move all this. So as you can see, these are in very nice condition. They haven't been handled a lot. They've been protected in these little baggies. There's no writing on them. There is a little bit of a stain here. It looks like a circular stain, maybe from a glass or a cup, something to that effect. There's a little circular. That's the first stain that I've seen. I obviously have not gone in to check every single card. So let's move these aside. This is Strat 1968 Advanced. Good old days. Let's look at the I believe the world champion Detroit Tigers. Yeah, let's do that. All right. And I'm wondering also, does this set come with extra players? Let's see if this. So the Detroit extra players would be Brown, Lasher, Matthews, and Wyatt. So Brown, Lasher, Matthews, and Wyatt. We'll see if we have those guys. Oh, there's it. Okay, it does come with the extra players. There's Wyatt, Matthews, Lasher, and Brown. So it has the extra players, and I guess these are the regular set. Northrup and Al Kaline. Kaline hit only 10 home runs and 300 at bats in 68. 21 home runs for Jim Northrup. Mickey Stanley hit 11 home runs. 264 for Northrup. 287 for Kaline. Willie Horton, he was huge, a beast at 38 home runs. with a 285 average. Don Wirt. Played the whole season. I guess he's their top fielding third baseman with a 1 at third base. Dick Tracewski, a 3 shortstop. From memory, he played shortstop, second base for them. 200 at bats, 156 batting average. Not much of a hitter. Ray Euler, and he's a 200 at bats with a 138 average. This was 1968. Dick McAuliffe, second baseman. He can handle himself at a 2, batted 250 and almost 600 at bats. So he hit 16 home runs. So Dick McAuliffe was pumping iron. Another kind of utility guy, Tom Machick, and he had 200 at bats and he batted 200. Norm Cash, the first baseman. I remember this guy's a slugger. He's a pretty good first baseman at a 2, and he hit 25 home runs with a 263 average, so he held his own with 400 at bats. Jim Price, the catcher, 132 at bats. So I usually, if you look at the World Series teams and they're not too beat up, you usually have a good chance that the set is going to be fairly clean. Now this, you can tell on the right side that this, and a little bit on the left side, that this team has been manhandled a little bit soiled on those 2 edges, but not anything strict, not anything severe at all. Bill Freehan, he was a starting catcher, an excellent catcher at a 1. He had 500 at bats, batted 260 with 25 home runs, so he was big. So you go from feast to famine. I'm noticing with this team, Earl Wilson, I remember, I guess he's a pitcher, but I remember him later in the 70s as a catcher with the Braves, coming up with the Braves. But Earl Wilson is a pitcher with a 2.85 ERA, 113, lost 12, so he was a starting pitcher. Then you have Joe Sparma, relief pitcher. He was 10-10 with a 3.71 ERA. Darrell Patterson, relief pitcher with a 2.12 ERA. Then you have Don McMahon. Yeah, I remember him with the 59. He was huge on the 59 Braves, Milwaukee Braves. Here he's a relief pitcher, and he had a 1.98 ERA, pitched 82 innings. So about an inning every 2 games. Denny McLain was 31-6, that says, with a 1.96 ERA. So he's lights out. And I don't know if you can see his card, but this guy is definitely lights out. Denny McLain. Mickey Lolich, 17-9 with a 3.19 ERA. So these are the 2 workhorses, right? Lolich had 220 innings pitched. Denny McLain had 338 innings pitched. John Hiller, starter reliever, 9-8 with a 2.39 ERA. So they had a heck of a pitching staff. John Hiller pitches lefty. Not many hits on his card. Ouch. So this guy's lights out with a 2.39 ERA. And Pat Dobson, pitcher, starter, 5-8, 2.66 ERA, 125 innings pitched. Wow, this team has some kind of pitching staff. So you're going to have a lot of low-scoring games. No wonder they made it to the World Series. Had a lot of infielders who kind of batted around 200, about 3 or 4 of them. But then you had some guys on the corners and out in the outfield that hit 25 home runs or better. And here you have the extra players, so you can use those. We got a relief pitcher with a 2.76 ERA and 49 innings pitched. Eddie Matthews, who plays all the infield, the corners. He had 3 home runs, 52 at bats, 2.12 average. Then you have Fred Lasher, a relief pitcher with a 3.31 ERA and 49 innings pitched. Finally, you had pinch hitter Gates Brown. It actually says pinch hitter on his card. How cool is that? 92 at bats, 6 home runs, and a 370 batting average. Yikes. Let's take a look at this thing. Let's see what that looks like. Let's see now. That is outs here. So not very good against left-handed pitchers, but against righties, definitely column 1 is hits all the way down. And there's a couple of hits, one hit in column 2 and a walk in the 6, 7. And then over here in column 3, you're going to have 5, 6, and 7, 9, and 10. So he's got a pretty darn good card at 370. And mostly against, now he plays 98% against right-handers, so do not play him against lefties. Gates Brown. So anytime there's a right-hander, you can bring him in to pinch hit. He's obviously a lefty hitter. Anyway, so that and these cards match exactly with the original set. So I wonder how that worked out. I wonder, and they're already pre-cut. That's the unique thing about, excuse me, 1968. That these cards originally were pre-cut. You don't have to sit there and kind of separate all the cards. Let's go over the St. Louis Cardinals. Ed Spezio, Schofield, Dick Hughes, Wayne Granger with a 2.25 ERA, 44 innings pitched. And I guess these top guys are probably the extras. Let's see if we can find the extras here. See what these look like. The extras for the Cardinals are going to be Granger, Hughes, Schofield, and Spezio. Those are the guys on top, right? Hughes, Schofield, Spezio, and Granger. Those are my extra players. Again, they match perfectly with the original advanced set. These also are a little bit soiled on the edges, so they replayed the World Series a couple of times, maybe with his kids, maybe with a friend, maybe alone, replaying it, solo replay. Bobby Tolan, I remember Bobby Tolan, not a great fielder, but I remember he had some good hitting years, but not in 1968. Roger Maris played with the Cardinals, of course, famous for his Yankee days. Not a great season. I replayed this World Series using those mini cards. Somehow I picked up a set of mini cards and it had all these different World Series teams, and I replayed the 68 series. Curt Flood, center field, the top center fielder at a 1, batted .301. It doesn't say how many stolen bases, but I believe Curt Flood was stealing some bases. Ron Davis, he's a left fielder he actually is a pretty good outfielder all around, a 2-2 and a 2. And he had 300 at bats. Not a power hitter and poor average. So good fielder, poor hitter. Lou Brock. Lou Brock batted .279, played decent left field at a 2. He's a double-A base stealer, not a triple-A, a double-A. Mike Shannon, a 2 third baseman, not too shabby, 266 with 15 home runs, so it has a little bit of power. Dal Maxfield, a 2 shortstop, pretty good fielding shortstop, batted .250, kind of held his own at that position. Julian Javier, second baseman, at a 2. Of course, no power, but he did manage to bat .260. Phil Gagliano plays all over the infield except for first base. He's a 4, not a very good fielder. Had 105 at bats, batted .229 with no home runs. So I don't know. He's probably just a guy who fills in with injuries. Orlando Cepeda, he's a big boy, did not have a great season in 68. A 2 first baseman, hit only 16 home runs and batted .248. Tim McCarver, a 2 catcher, pretty good catcher, a .253 clip with 5 home runs. So not a lot of power here. Another catcher is John Edwards with .230 at bats. He had 3 home runs, batted .240. So not much in the offensive department. The Cardinals pretty much probably won it all on pitching. Let's take a look at their pitching staff now. Ron Willis with a 3.38 ERA. He was a reliever. Starter was Ray Washburn, 14-8 with a 2.26 ERA. Yikes, that's pretty darn good. How many innings pitched? 215 innings pitched. Not really a strikeout guy. Strikeout every 2 innings. Mel Nelson, relief pitcher, starter. So he did a little both. He was 2-1 with a 2.89 ERA and 50 innings pitched. Larry Jaster, pitcher reliever. He was 9-13 with a 3.50 ERA, 150 innings pitched. Joe Horner, I remember him as a left-handed reliever with a 1.40 ERA, 49 innings pitched. So he was their closer type. He was lights out, 1.49 ERA. Here he is, the big boy. Bob Gibson, 22-9 with a 1.12 ERA. Yikes. Let's take a look at 300 innings pitched, 268 strikeouts. Take a closer look at this card. So all outs, a walk grants a walk out of 10, single out of 4, single out of 1 to 14, splits on a 5. Now against left-handed batters, how do you fare? Lights out except for a walk at 10. Here against lefties, he gave up some hits, gave up a home run here, and power a double. So that's a splits 1 to 8, 9 to 20 double. Another splits number of 5, 1 to 5, and 6 to 20 single, 1 to 5 double, single on 6. So he struggles, in quotation marks, against lefties, and not a lot of lefties. He faces lefties 40% of the time. 1 to 5 single, line out is 16 to 20. And so most of his hits come off, his only real hits are coming off column 4 against left-handed batters. And of course, if the league, and we have to look at that in a second, I wonder what the league batting average was. Probably not very high. So when it's coming off the batter card, you're probably not going to have too many hits. Steve Carlton is on his team. He had 230 innings pitched, 13 and 11 with a 2.99 ERA. So he held his own as a Cardinal. I know he goes on to have a big days with the Philadelphia Phillies. Steve Carlton. All right, and Nelly Bryles, 19 and 11, that says, with a 2.80 ERA, 244 innings pitched. So he had a huge season as well. He had a big season. So this is a fun team to play. And those are the two World Series teams. Again, a little bit more soil than the rest, but it, makes sense, right? Makes sense because the World Series team, and everybody grabs these sets, and of course they're going to have to replay the World Series. I mean, I do it. And that's it. Ultimately, I wanted to see those two teams. Let's look a little bit at 78, learn a little bit more about 78. See if it's worth playing. All right, so let's look and see what 1968 has in store for us. Let's go farther up here. ALNL. League standings. Let's look at batting. Let's look at the standings. Obviously, we'll start with that. So the standings, this is 20 teams, right? There are only 3 teams with 90 or more wins, so it's not really a competitive. Detroit obviously ran away with it, and St. Louis was right behind them. So that's something. Let's look at the little bit of the batting. 1960 Major League season. Let's see what this has for us. Okay, batting. Let's look at team. Let's look at batting average. Let's see what team had the best batting average. 273 with the Reds. So the Reds had a good team batting average, the best in the league, 20 points higher than the Braves. Pirates were tied with 252. Let's get rid of those ads. 249 for the Cardinals and 242 for the Cubs. The league average was 237. Yikes. So that's the league average, 237. You can see that there, right in this section. Home run wise, 185 for the Tigers. So they were the beasts of the, they were the beasts, the power beasts of the era of that season. And the Cardinals are all the way at the bottom, 4th from the bottom. And you can just click on this again, and there they are, the Cardinals with 73 home runs. But let's look at the stolen bases now. And the Cardinals were 4th in stolen bases. And I bet you that the Tigers were all the way at the bottom. They were the worst at stolen bases. So they were hitting home runs while the Cardinals were stealing bases. So 2 different types of teams for sure here. On base percentage, who had the best on base percentage? The Reds and the Red Sox and the Braves and the Tigers. So they had the top on base percentage. The worst on base percentage were the Mets and the White Sox, the Senators and the Dodgers. 1968, Sandy Koufax was gone, so there's no reason to look at that. Let's look and see if we can. Let's take a look at some of the pitching for this. Let's see. League average pitching was a 2.98 ERA, so 3 runs a game was the average. Home runs allowed. Cubs gave up the most home runs at Wrigley Field. The Angels, the Tigers, and the Athletics all gave up the most home runs. Most hits allowed. The Phillies, Senators, Cubs, and Reds. So that is the pitching part of it. Let's see, we can even look at whip here. Let me see if I get to the whip. For some reason I can't get to the whip. This thing is in the way. I hate this. Oh, hide this. Wait. A lot of ads. I think you can get rid of these ads by paying like a subscription. Oh, here it is. This is what I was looking for. All right, let's go to the whip and see the top whip. Top whip was 1.1. Cleveland and Orioles and Tigers and Cardinals. Okay, so the better teams are the ones that ultimately made it to the World Series. Obviously, Indians and Orioles didn't, but the Orioles were, I think, had the third best record, and they had an excellent whip. So whip is definitely important. Let's look a little bit at fielding. Fielding is always interesting to look at. Let's see, team fielding. Let's see, and I like to look at what just happened. Team pitching, team fielding. All right. Let's look at RTOT. RTOT is total zone, total fielding runs above average. Usually the teams at top are the better teams. So you know that's a good metric to look at. See the Orioles, the Tigers, and then, of course, the Cardinals aren't there. That's interesting. But the Orioles that were third and the Tigers that were first in the league are at the top of the RTOT, right? But then again, the Cardinals, they had an interesting team, right? Because they didn't hit a lot of home runs, but they were definitely at the top. Let's see the bottom of RTOT. Okay, the Cardinals are almost at the league average of RTOT. I can't get rid of this thing. It's really annoying me. Hide. It says hide, but then it jumps. Wait, let me see. It doesn't let me get rid of it. So, yeah, it's not going to let me get rid of it. No. All right, so let's, Cardinals are right here, right above league average with a -3 RTOT. And again, 77 for the Orioles, 80-63. Errors. Who committed the most errors? The Twins, the Giants, the Astros, and the White Sox. Who committed the fewest errors? The Tigers, the Cubs, the Orioles. 2 teams that were in the top 3. And again, the Cardinals are nowhere near. They're all the way towards the bottom. 135 errors, almost 1 error a game. So, DPs, I'm sorry. Okay, so, yeah, the most errors were the Twins, Giants, Astros, White Sox, Senators, and Athletics. The fewest errors were the Tigers, Cubs, Orioles, Braves, Indians, and Phillies. So the Tigers only basically 2 errors every 3 games. And that's it for fielding, I think. Let's see if we can grab some league leaders somewhere. I don't know if I can find that. Oh, pitching leaders, batting leaders. Let's look at that. Let's look at the batting leaders. All right. So the batting leaders, batting average. Pete Rose, 335. Alou with Pittsburgh. And then Alou with Atlanta. Johnson with Cincinnati. What Johnson was that? Alex Johnson. Whoa. Okay, I remember Alex Johnson in the American League. Okay, but he started out in the National League, I guess. Then Flood, heck of a player. And this is 68. Isn't he out of baseball by 69, 70? That's pretty crazy. Bats 368. He left baseball for a while, ended up moving to Spain, I know, because of that whole thing with the contract. Yastrzemski, they say he was a martyr and he sacrificed himself. didn't want to play ball with the kind of system that was in place. That it was basically a system that enslaved, and that tied down players to this one team, and regardless of what that team paid them, they had to stay there. No other team would hire them. So this was not fair to the players. Yastrzemski, 301 and 68, I believe. Oh, that's the highest average. He wins this is the year that he wins the batting title with a 301 average. Then you got Jones, New York Mets, Cleon Jones with a 297 average. You got Beckert with Chicago, 294, McCovey, 293, and Rusty Staub with Houston at 291. And I know Staub goes to Montreal for a few years and then goes to the Mets and then goes to the Tigers, and he was a heck of a hitter. He's like one of the few players to have, I think, 500 hits with 4 different teams, something like that. So let's see, home runs. All right, Frank Howard with Howard with 44, Washington. Horton with 36, McCovey with the Giants, 36. Kenny Harrelson with Boston, 35. Allen with Phillies, 33. Ernie Banks with 32. Williams with Chicago. That is Billy Williams with 30. He could do it all, that guy. Henry Aaron, 29. Jackson coming into his own, 29. Next year, he hits like 48, I believe. Santo, Chicago with 26, and Wynn the Toy Cannon, 26 with the Houston Astros in a ballpark that really did not allow a lot of home runs. So anyway, those are some of the offensive stats. Let's go back. Let's see if I can find the pitching stats so we can go over those. Yeah, down here. Let's look at pitching leaders. Excuse me. To get an idea if we want to play this season or not. So obviously, what's the news there with Correa? Oh, wow. All right. What can we look at? We can look at, I guess, let's look at the earned run average here. Gibson with 112, Tiant with 160, McDowell, and that's Sam McDowell, 181, Dave McNally with a 195, Denny McLain, who I think wins 31 games, with a 196. Tommy John, already with almost a ERA lower than 2 with the White Sox. Bowling, San Francisco, with a 199. Stan Bonson, big, with a 205. Veal, and Pittsburgh, and he's a 205. And then Jerry Koosman, another outstanding pitcher with the Mets, who was really in the shadows of Tom Seaver, but he could hold his own as a lefty. So let's see what else we can look at strikeouts per 9 innings. So you got McDowell at the top, Tiant, Lolich, Singer, Gibson, Culp. So all these guys had 8 per 9 innings, 7 per 9 innings. Nowadays we have 18 per 9 innings. What else we got here? Saves, strikeouts, complete games. That's always fun. Marichal with 30. McLean with 28. Gibson with 28. Jenkins with 20. Stottlemyre, New York Yankees, 19. Tiant with 19. Perry, 19. Koosman with the Mets with 17. Home runs allowed. McLean, 31. Hunter's always at the top. Hands, Jenkins, short. Ellis is always another one at the top, allowing home runs. I guess they challenged a lot of batters and threw the ball over the plate a lot. Let's see, earned runs, hit by pitch. And that's pretty much it. On the right side, what can I look at? Let me get rid of that. On the right side, wins, walks, bases on balls, games played, innings pitched. And he's 336 for McLean, Marichal with 325, Jenkins 300, Gibson 300, Chance with Minnesota 292, Perry 290, Stoudemire 278, Seaver with 278, McNally 273, and Short with Philadelphia 269. And that's about it. So some reasons to play 1968 and the unboxing of 1968 Stratomatic. So I hope you enjoyed it. This is Tony Porter. Remember to like and subscribe to my channel. Join Universal Baseball Association Facebook group. And I will see you guys very, very soon. Take care now.